Hi folks, my name is Darren Gerdes. I'm just a professor trying to help you understand what's going on, some context in the war in Ukraine. And that word context is really important. Everything that I do, I'm trying to help you understand the context so it's clearer, so that you have the ability to make finer and finer distinctions about what's really happening. Today I want to talk about something a little different than what I normally talk about. I want to talk about landmine use in Ukraine. As you know, the counteroffensive kind of stalled because the entrenchments, the emplacements, the landmines, the dragon's teeth, the trenches, all of that was preventing the Ukrainians from being able to get through the Russian lines successfully. And we're going to talk about what these mines look like. But first, just a little bit about these mines. Ukraine is severely contaminated with landmines and explosive remnants of war from the armed conflict that began in 2014 and surged with Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022. Landmines have been documented in 11 of Ukraine's 27 regions. Of course, it's mostly in the east and the south, but yeah, I mean, there's a big portion of the country that is contaminated. Just Google it, landmines in Ukraine. About 174,000 square kilometers of Ukraine is suspected to be contaminated with mines and unexploded ordnance. Okay, what does that mean? Well, if you look at a map, 174,000 square kilometers is a little larger than the state of Florida. Well, what does that mean? And to put it into context. So Ukraine's about the size of Texas. Okay, this is a state of Texas, and this area about the size of Florida is how much is contaminated with landmines. Now I'm going to introduce you to this gentleman here. He is at Harley-EOD. He has 9,008 subscribers, and he provides some brilliant context in understanding what's going on. He is a British EOD. EOD is Explosive Ordnance, I think that's what it stands for, volunteer in Ukraine. So he's a British, I think, former Marine that is now in Ukraine covering explosive ordnance and landmine clearance in the Ukraine. Okay, so let's watch just a few minutes of what he's actually doing so you can get a feel, a sense of what he's actually up against. So I'm going to let him talk right here.
Good morning from England. Obviously, many of you know that I am back in England for Christmas. I do return to Ukraine after Christmas in the January period. So I just want to share with you some videos that have been taken from our team in the last week on some of the devices and booby traps and tactics that have been used by the previous occupiers. It also highlights exactly what we're up against and how dangerous that this job really is. And it's important to remember that we are volunteers, and we don't ask for anything. And I think it's important at the minute that obviously whilst Ukraine's support is lacking on the international stage, is that we remain united in terms of support and online support and keeping Ukraine in the news.
Yeah, and keeping Ukraine in the news is why a number of us got into this to begin with. Now, he's going to show you like video of what actually looks like on the ground, and I was stunned by this because, so we all know you step on a mine, it goes boom, it's bad, right? A tank rolls over a mine, it goes boom, that's very bad. But I didn't understand exactly what it looked like or how they might even stack these ordnance so that they could do maximal damage, and he's going to show you that here.
So I'm going to share with you some clips that have been taken by the team and been sent to me. We was aware of these devices and where they was. We have been aware for quite some time, but obviously now we're only just getting around to them.
So there's one. There's another. Do you see it? It's hard to see.
So what you're going to see in this clip is the
There's another.
TM62 anti-tank mines.
Another.
These mines, they're used to defend the Russian positions from the tanks. High explosive, 7.5 kilogram mines, do a lot of damage. What they do, they lay these in defensive belts.
Now I'm looking at this and I'm wondering, like, he's just kind of walking through the field and not thinking a whole lot of it. I mean, I know they flagged them, but still, like, I would be going very, very slowly at this point. But yeah, here's a guy just walking like it's walking through the park. So as you can imagine, they have to be extremely careful as they're digging this out, especially if there's anything below the mine, which there can be, and apparently there was in a number of these instances. Watch this.
So here we have a TM62, and that's Yuri doing the excavation. And underneath you can see a projectile, which is an artillery shell. And underneath that is an ML8 anti-lift device, so it's triple stacked, designed to kill and cause maximum damage.
So the Russians were thinking through this. They were really good at placing things that were going to be obstacles in the way, or placing things that were going to make it very difficult for Ukraine to push through certain areas. And you've got to credit General Surovikin for doing that. When he left from Kherson and took his whole army with him, they went and immediately started setting up these defensive lines, and this is the result of it, because we didn't have the weapons to them to prosecute the war fast enough.
So the reason why we knew these devices were here is because the commander for a previous SAP unit that worked clearing this land was actually killed by activating one of the triple stacks that you've seen in the video. Unfortunately, obviously, he lost his life. So we have been made aware of what's there, and yeah, you know, if it was me, I'd probably just destroy them in place, but they've decided not to do that. But yeah, it just goes to show, like, you know, how dangerous and, you know, how lethal some of these devices are, and it also highlights the importance of why farmers and normal civilians shouldn't really go clearing these sort of devices and landmines on their own. And just imagine if a bunch of kids, you know, who are returning back to the area came across that and just moved one of them mines or anything, just an inch. I mean, all it takes to move a mine is just to pull the vegetation around it, because what you need to remember is that a lot of these mines, they've been sat there for over a year, so a lot of the vegetation and everything's grown around it, and some people make the mistake of pulling the vegetation, which then activates the ML8, which is the anti-lift device that they put underneath, like a little matchbox. So yeah, it's very deadly, very, very dangerous. You know, that's why there's been a lot of casualties in the south amongst the civilians. Yeah, I think it's like 260 something up to now, and that's just what we know about. You know, there's a lot more that we don't know about. So in total, the guys have found 12 munitions like this. That is Tolia carrying the projectile away. And this one's quite interesting because it's a TM62 on top of another TM62, and then with a projectile underneath. So yeah, these kind of devices just designed to kill the whole team, and that's the fruits of the labour for the day.
Okay, so I'm going to stop there. He can go on and talk elsewhere. If you are interested in hearing more about that from this UAEOD, it's at Harley-EOD. And he's got, you know, about 60 videos that just talk about this kind of thing. This isn't my forte. This is something beyond me. But what's interesting to me is we talk about, you know, why didn't the counteroffensive go faster? They had to get through this. They had to get through trenches and dragon's teeth and this and artillery and other things without the proper weapons in order to be able to get to clear and then be able to get through, and the air support and whatever else. All right. I hope that that helps you understand what a better sense of what's going on the ground. Thank you for your time and thank you for watching this. Consider subscribing to UA EOD, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.